In today's video, we are going to be seeing more gameplay of the KingdomsTCG from the tournament that was held a couple months ago. Stay tuned for the rest of the video. Hey fellow gamers, Tyler here with the KingdomsTCG. Thank you for taking your precious time and clicking on this video. Please like, subscribe, do whatever you want to do so that way you can stay in touch with the content related to the KingdomsTCG that comes out on a weekly basis. Before jumping into the video, I'm going to cover a couple things. Firstly, links will be in the description below where you can get access to my Facebook and Instagram page, where you can get access to what is going on in the KingdomsTCG. I just started this week posting posts Monday through Friday, all with a different theme, giving you different aspects and ideas and things behind the scenes, all related to the KingdomsTCG. Also, links will be in the description below for the Game Crafter, where you can get your hands on your very own Estercrest, Furbish, and Linford starter decks from set 1, the beginnings. In today's video, I'm going to be having Carter, the 8 seed, playing as Furbish, playing against Zach, the 9 seed, playing with Estercrest. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the video.
So here we go for the next gameplay video for the KingdomsTCG tournament. We have Carter on the right side, who's playing with Furbish, who's coming in at the 8 seed, and then we have Zach on the left side playing with Estercrest, coming in at the 9 seed. We see that Carter is opening up with Marketplace. And then we also see that Zach is starting out with Tanis's Dwelling Place. And so so far Furbish has not been doing good in the tournament. When we had the pool play, Furbish was struggling to get a couple wins. They did manage to get a decent amount of them, but Estercrest and Linford definitely are at the top of what was going on. And so now we'll just wait to see what happens, and we'll take it from here. So it appears that Carter is going first. Again, if you go first, you do not get to draw a card. But thankfully, he does have a token in his hand. So that's going to help him out a lot in being able to just start to getting that Magicka base out. It's always kind of nice on turn 1. If you can get a token out, then that at least is opening up turns that are coming up. So that way, rather than having to spend Magicka to get a token out, you're actually able to play a card or whatever. We see that Carter's actually been able to bring out Refugee, which is just a cost to phase 1, a 200/200, which isn't an incredible card, but to be able to bring that out in a token, that's not too bad. He can start dealing damage if he wants to. So now it's Zach's turn, and actually because of Tanis's Dwelling Place, he's going to be able to bring out that Estercrest Soldier for absolutely free, because Tanis's Dwelling Place makes Estercrest battle cards cost -2 Magicka. So definitely a nice, cheap move that Estercrest players are able to do if they have that Sacred out. And Estercrest Soldier is just such an excellent phase 1 card to have, just because it's a 300/300 with defensive, so it can kind of neutralize any strong cards that maybe Linford's able to bring out, or that Furbish is able to bring out as well. So Zach is already going to be dealing damage to Carter with his Sacred, and he's going to bring it down to 1,000 at this point.
Nope, I can't attack on the first. Never mind. So your turn.
Carter again with another token. So now basically for the rest of the game, just kind of open the door for what Carter will be able to do, whether it's play spells or play a couple different battle cards or a super powerful battle card, because Furbish does have a lot of really good battle cards. They're just expensive, but it's worth the cost when you go to do it. Alright, Carter discarding a card. Maybe he has full hand size. We'll see. So it looks like Zach is laid down a token. I apologize that we can't see it in the video, but nonetheless, he's going to give him more Magicka.
Okay. I am now going to attack you.
One from your hand back into your fortress.
For...
So Zach bringing out Silversmith, and he's going to give Estercrest Soldier that +100 attack to start delivering more firepower.
This card is defensive.
And that's actually going to bring Carter's Marketplace all the way down to 200. So I'm going to be curious to see if Carter's going to try using the Marketplace ability just one last time before he ends up going into phase 2. That's the thing that's nice about Marketplace is it's nice having it a phase 1, because if you know that you're not going to maybe make a huge push in phase 1, you can at least try to dig through your fortress to try to give you the cards that you need to hopefully be able to just last in phase 2 and phase 3. So it looks like Carter in that 2-card draw, he got a 3 token, and then he got the Beast Rider. So he actually sent the Beast Rider to the graveyard, and he kept 3, and he's playing that 3 token. So he's just kind of giving him a bigger Magicka base for the game to come. It does appear that he did not discard a card for the 3 token, which you know, could be bad, couldn't be bad. It is part of the rules, but that's okay. Again, not a super formal tournament, but obviously you want to try to do things correctly, and that's where it just comes as in playing a game with someone, you know, just being courteous enough to kindly remind people of, hey, this is the rules of the game, make sure you discard a card. Zach just continuing to just build a board presence, bringing out Watchmaker and bringing out Surveillance Eagle. And he's going to give his Silversmith defensive. So now he has 2 defensive battle cards out that both have defensive. And with that, even if he just attacked with the simple Pack of Wolves, he's going to kill Carter's Marketplace. And now Carter's going to enter into phase 2, and he's going to open up with River of Blessing. River of Blessing.
That's a crap sacred. You don't think so? Plus 900. Are you going to do that? You have to state that at the beginning of your first turn.
Did you hear him? He was like,
You have to state that before the other one dies.
Well, then, yeah.
Okay. Wow. So that's...
you're just gonna hear in the microphone every 5 seconds. Candace.
Alright, so now it's Carter's turn, and now he's going to see what he can do. Looks like he drew a Silversmith of his own. He does have a Summoner's Call under his hand, so he could bring out a battle card to start building some board presence. Unfortunately, that Silversmith only coming in at, I believe it's a 200, 300 overall stats. He's not going to be able to do much with it just because... you know, Esther Crest Soldier is now a 400, 300, and so Silversmith won't be able to get over that. And then on top of that, you have Zach's own Silversmith that additionally has defensive. So Carter's Silversmith kind of going out with no rhyme or reason right now, and unfortunately that plus 100 ability for either an attack or health isn't going to be able to be used at all either. So now this is unfortunate, though. This is where it can stink when you have a full board state. If you don't have any cards that can get rid of them or do whatever, then you're kind of stuck with just the cards that you have. And like, for example, sure, Surveillance Eagle is good, but it's only a 200, 200. Same with Pack of Wolves and same with Watchmaker. You know, for those 3 cards in particular, they are good cards to bring out into the field because, such as Watchmaker, gives you that draw card ability, or Surveillance Eagle is giving a card defensive, or even Pack of Wolves is just a quick mini aggression of making that copy. But once those effects fizzle out, they fizzle out. So Zach dealing damage to Carter's Sacred, and he's already going to bring it down to 600. So Carter is just falling very fast, and you could say that Zach is in control of the game. You could put it. Having that Tannis' Dwelling Place just makes things all the more difficult, especially for Carter. And I forgot to even mention this. He brought out Silversmith, but because of Tannis' Dwelling Place, it had minus 100 attack. So even if he were to attack the weakest card that Zach currently has out in the field, being Watchmaker, he would have lost his Silversmith, which just makes things super frustrating and difficult for Carter. And it stinks too because of doing his Marketplace ability, or when he played his 3 token, you have to discard cards to because that's what the cards say that you have to do, and he's had to get rid of his Beast Riders and some potentially good cards. Granted, those are phase 3 battle cards, but they're cards that he is sending to the graveyard that, sure, he has a Summoner's Call, but it's going to be tough to bring those in. So Carter just trying to salvage a win, just do anything, is bringing out Captured Slave, which phase 1 costs 100, 100, and actually because of Tannis' Dwelling Place is actually a 0, 100. So it is just kind of a dead card, just acting not even as a meat shield, because Zach, if he wanted to, could just straight up attack Carter's Sacred. But Carter, Zach does have enough attack left over, and Carter is very quickly, only maybe about 7-8 minutes into the match, Carter has now entered into his phase 3
Skylight.
match, or his third sacred phase.
And it has 19. And that's the one where I can't attack that much.
So it is looking like Carter did give his Skylight Fountain the plus 900 ability. So now what's important here though is that because River Blessing does give the 900 health to a sacred, you have to remember that if you decide to give that plus 900 ability or that plus 900 health to your sacred, that sacred loses that ability. And if I heard correctly, it sounds like this was something that both of them forgot. And so if that is the case, now you have a 1900 health sacred that can't be attacked if Carter has cards out on the field. But nonetheless, Carter bringing out Disciplined Soldier, which is a great cost 5 phase 2 card. Just a good 500 to bring out, just to start dealing some damage. And thankfully, because he has, even with that minus 100 of that Tannis' Dwelling Place, he's going to be able to kill every single card that Zach has out on the field. And this is where some strategy comes into the game, because oftentimes what can happen, especially if you are starting to lose, is because you're starting to get irritated with losing or whatever, you just want to start attacking the person's sacred. And what you sometimes can do is just start to take away the board state that your opponent has. Start to whittle it away and get the cards in your hand, get the cards on the board that you want to have, and kind of lock your opponent in phase 1, which is forcing them to draw cards that they can't play because they have a bunch of phase 2 and phase 3 cards. And then even on top of that, you're forcing them, because their hand size can only be 6 cards, you're forcing them to discard cards. So that's always a strategy where if you're starting to fall behind but you have a way to stall your opponent, do that.
No, but you can't attack me. Yeah.
So for Zach's turn, he is bringing out Outpost Tower, but it appears that he is forgetting to use the Outpost Tower's ability, which would just be great in order to, look at his fortress for 2 cards and see what he could do.
Okay, I can't.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Well,
7.
no, the way I was thinking about it, it'd be really cheatsy, but I don't think I can do it. Okay. What's his health at?
So you're down 1400.
Oh, never mind. Looks like he is remembering to do it. Sometimes what happens is because there's so many plays that a player wants to do, and so many effects and things that are going to trigger, you can sometimes forget that when you go to play a card, you start immediately thinking of, oh, this is going to happen, and therefore you start to forget what's going on.
Okay.
So Zach actually is deciding not to attack, but it doesn't. You can't tell if they have decided, if they have remembered that you can't use Skylight Fountain's effect anymore because it receives that 900 health bonus. So Carter, for his turn, because he has a base Magicka of 10 now, he's able to bring out Abandoned Army, which is just a great neutral card. Cost 6, phase 3, a 600, 500. And then he brought out Farmer, which just gives his Sacred plus 100 health. So now Carter is sitting at 2,000 health, which is fantastic.
You had me down to 100 health.
So it's into your turn?
Sacred.
Yeah, but I was just reading that. Okay.
Let's go.
Was it me and you?
You're down again?
Oh crap.
I went up. I hope you lose.
As a what?
That's the spirit.
So Zach taking his turn, he's going to draw a card. Looks like he's drawn Defender. But unfortunately, again, Zach is locked at a full board state, so he's kind of at the mercy of Carter.
Oh, you weren't done?
Yeah, I touched it when you
I guess I'm done, yeah.
So it appears that Carter's disciplined soldier was somehow killed, but it's not apparent what exactly happened. Actually, what looks like it happened, and it's tough because of the camera angle, and unfortunately where Zach placed his secrets should technically, just for the sake of how you lay out the board, should be to the right of Outpost Tower. And so it appears that Zach had spent his Magicka to play Earthquake on Disciplined Soldier to keep his one of his battle cards alive. He did swing in with Abandoned Army though, and he was able to kill Silversmith. So now there are no cards out in the field that have defensive.
I'm just asking you.
Carter is going to finally deal some damage to Zach Sacred, and which finally brings Zach down to 1,400. And now Zach is starting to get a little perturbed because he's stuck in phase 1 and he's starting to run out of ammunition. He does have a phase 1 battle card in his hand, but you start to struggle. Do I want to play this card or not? And he is going to play this card. And so now with what Defender's going to force Carter to do is Carter is going to have to take a card from the field, or from his hand, my apologies, and put it back in his fortress.
What's his health?
Okay, so Farmer was killed by the Outpost Tower.
I'm going to kill him with my Outpost Tower. Hey, Tyler, you can only attack one card with one card, right? I can't use all my cards to attack this one card.
And that's going to be the end of Zach's turn. And again, unfortunately, because that rule was forgot about what River of Blessing said, it is possible that Zach could have had this match in the bag. But the game goes on, and we'll see what happens. Again, this is just one of the things that you have to remember. You always need to be reading your cards, because there's so many things that the cards say and what they can do. Some effects happen right away, like Watchmaker. For you to play Watchmaker, you read it once and you know exactly what it does, and you don't have to remember it because it just says one call to the field, draw a card. Cards like River of Blessing, though, you have to remember. You have to read the whole text, and sometimes you can get so excited in what a card says and give a card plus 900 health that you can forget the second half of what the card says, in which it says, if you do this, the new Sacred that received this bonus no longer has the effect that it has, but it still has bleed.
Still can't use that card. I really don't know how that card. Outpost Tower gone?
No, it's not.
Oh, so I can't use it next round?
Yeah. And then I get choose 2 more. We'll do Tackle Wolves and...
Can only do 1.
So Carter is playing Silence. He's going to silence Pack of Wolves, Outpost Tower, and Defender. So now Zach has 3 cards that he cannot attack with. And so again, Carter's just kind of stalling him out. Carter is going to play Summoner's Call again because he has 10 Magicka. He can really do whatever he wants at the moment. And he's going to bring out Disciplined Soldier, which is again just a good 500. He could have brought out Beast Rider, which would be a good card, but the only thing that's bad about Beast Rider is that it does the minus 100 to your other cards, and which is kind of the trade-off for being able to play a powerful card for only 6 Magicka.
Alex, low-key, I don't want to get on my first Sacred, but I really want him to get me out of my first Sacred.
Honestly, it doesn't matter at this point.
What do you mean?
Like, if he gets you to Sacred phase 3 and you still win, all that matters is you win. There's no, like...
Oh, I thought that mattered.
I mean, for the video, you're being recorded, so yeah, it might matter, but...
You'll see that some players, especially when dealing with different effects or abilities, will just turn cards sideways just to serve as a reminder of what's going on. Carter is sweeping in with both of his super powerful phase 3 cards that he has out right now, and he's going to be killing Watchmaker and I forget the other card, my apologies. So Zach drawing a card, can't do anything, he's going to immediately pass turn, and so now Carter is just beginning to draw cards. Now the thing is, you have to be careful. You'll see this a lot when people are playing a game, that they will quickly rush through their turn, and then they'll quickly pass turn, and then say, wait, hold on, I gotta do something. once you pass a turn, your turn's done. Once you announce something when you're playing the game, you have to follow through on it. So you have to be careful and just being all willy-nilly and just saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. You have to make sure what you are saying you are going to follow through on. Now, certainly, you know, if the other player that you are playing against is gracious enough to say, yes, you can take that back, then that's totally fine. Obviously, return the favor to them if they make a mistake in saying what they say. If anything, if you're playing a match with someone, maybe agree ahead of time. Okay, this is what we are expecting. If you say what you say, you got to do it. Or if you say something but want to back out, it's okay. But for the Kingdoms TCG purposes, for the official rules, it's kind of the stereotypical sayings of what you hear: a card laid is a card played, but also what you say is what you got to do. So Carter, because he's in phase 3, he can just play any cards to his heart's content, and he just has a bunch of super good cards out right now. He's wiped Zach's board completely, and Zach is sitting at 1400 health right now, but Carter should be easily able to just get rid of Zach's Sacred, which will be great for Carter because he can finally get Zach out of phase 1 and start to make some progress onto Zach. But now Zach has officially went into phase 2, and he's going to hopefully be able to play some good cards. Again, my apologies for the bad camera angle. I can't tell if he has any tokens out, so that is the only thing that's going to be difficult. Nonetheless, even if he does have 1 token, he still doesn't have 2 tokens, so he's not going to be able to play a lot of Magicka. It does look like, though, he has set his Magicka tracker card at about 7, so he might have 7 Magicka at the moment.
The Great Defense.
Zach revealing the Great Defense Training Ground, which is another Esther Cross Sacred, and that is sitting at 1600 health. That Sacred is super good, and you know it's tough to say which Esther Cross Sacred is better at phase 1 and which one's better at phase 2. But the Great Defense Training Ground does have bleed and 1 applicable, so the first time they're able to, you give a friendly battle card plus 100 health, and then Esther Crest battle cards with defensive gain an additional plus 100 health. Zach asking Carter for the health of all of his cards, which if a player asks you for information, you gotta let the person know. If a card is out there, that means it is open information for all people to know, and so you have to be willing to tell people, and that's just fair play for the game.
You choose who goes first and who goes second.
Well, it's 21 without my plus 400
We can't start yet.
Huh?
because
Well, I'm not attacking this card.
So Carter and Zach figuring out the health values of all the battle cards, and one thing that you have to remember is when you are in combat, combat is a one-on-one basis. It isn't a group of cards versus a group of cards. And then Carter and Zach just kind of figuring out a couple of the small intricacies in the game. Carter just mistaking that Abandoned Army would have that plus 100, or excuse me, that plus 200 buff for its attack and health. But because he has other battle cards out, they will not get it. And so Zach is just kindly reminding Carter. And again, that's just part of the gameplay, being courteous to each other and being understanding.
And I'm going to play this card on it. What do you mean, seller? Since you're going.
And now I just want to take a quick break from the gameplay video to do something that is very important to me, and I'm just going to call it Bible talk. My faith is very important to me. I love reading scripture. I love reading what the Bible has to say about Christianity because my faith is very important to me. But I'm only going to take 1 to 2 minutes of your time, so if this isn't something that you're into, you can still sit back and enjoy, and then we'll jump right back into the gameplay video. What I wanted to talk about today real briefly is coming out of my devotions that I've been doing the last couple days. I've been reading from the books of 1st and 2nd Kings quite a bit. And in that book, in those 2 books, you read a story about a king by the name of Ahab, who twice, and he didn't learn the first time, went to other sources for guidance and for wisdom and ended up resulting in quite tragic endings, the last tragic ending resulting in his death. And the first time you read the story, you think to yourself, man, he made a mistake, but hopefully he'll learn. And the second time he does the same exact thing. he goes to consult other sources besides people that believe in the true God named Yahweh. And so what I want us to take from that is there are times where us as individuals think that we have answers, or think that we can turn to other things. We can turn to other substances, we can turn to other people, we can turn to other sources of wisdom before we even turn to what God has to say and what God can do. You know, we go and we have tough situations that we're in, and we go to things that can maybe numb the pain. We face hard situations and we go to other people that can maybe take our side, and we do all that before we even turn to God. And what happens because we don't turn to God is the way that we have responded to those situations is actually more detrimental than what could have happened had we just asked God for wisdom, had we spent time in what His Scripture says and how it gives us guidance on how to handle certain situations. So my encouragement to you is, if you do believe in God, consult Him first, read His Scripture first, pray to Him first before making a decision in something, before you stress out about something or try to relieve the pain or the anxiety with what you are dealing with. Thanks for listening. Let's jump back into the gameplay video.
So Zach finally able to bring out Phase 2 Mountain Yeti, which is a great card for Esther Crest. It's kind of their fallback in case they start falling behind, and also too because Esther Crest really struggles with card draw. Mountain Yeti is a great card because even if you have to trade Mountain Yeti with another person's card, meaning that Mountain Yeti is going to die if you put it in combat, you're going to be able to draw a card, which Esther Crest needs.
Well, that's what I'm confused. It would make more sense if it was
I think it's more of like
if he was attacking me and I played that card. That'd make more sense.
So Zach just asking Alex, who helped set up the tournament brackets and the pool play and stuff. Zach's just asking for a rule clarification. So Zach is asking on the spell Glory. Glory is a cost 4 spell that says target battle card cannot be destroyed in battle during your attack phase. So basically what that card means is that if you were to play that spell, which you have to play it before your attack phase, because if you play it after your attack phase, you are playing it out of order, and then it would just be a spell that's used for nothing. But what that means is that if you were to play that card with that battle card and then attack a battle card that it would be tied with, so for instance Mountain Yeti having 600 attack, if you were to attack Beast Rider who has 600 health, but he played Glory, Mountain Yeti would not die.
Okay. That's the.
I don't have something that clears stuff like that.
Huh?
you can't set
I'm
that
the only
spell
that
either.
does
They can't set that one?
That's not a secret. That one's
Okay.
So Zach ending his turn, at least he got rid of a powerful battle card that Carter has.
Sure.
And we'll see what Carter's able to do. Being in Phase 3 and having 10 Magicka, he can do anything he wants. He really can play any card.
This card also has 600 health.
He's going to play the spell Life.
Gets up to lay life, and it doesn't have that. Said I'm laying life, and it's gonna
Okay, so again, here's just kind of one of those instances where they've both agreed that you can take cards back just a mutual agreement between the two. Carter wants to go play Life, which is a spell that gives your Sacred plus 400 health, but the spell does specify that 400 number cannot take you over the original health value. So Zach being nice enough to let Carter put it back in his hand.
getting neutral cards. So done.
I'll make any trade.
So Carter actually went to go swing in with Beast Rider, but Zach did have Earthquake laid down, which is a secret that protects Esther Crest battle cards. Now the only thing that happens that was incorrect in playing that is that Earthquake is specific in saying that it protects battle cards with defensive, and Mountain Yeti, even though he is an Esther Crest card, it does not have defensive, and so technically Beast Rider should have been able to kill Mountain Yeti just fine, and Earthquake would not have been able to be used.
Bang.
Okay, I am now going to attack your other.
So Carter, though, did end up swinging in with both cards, and that was going to bring Zach's Sacred down to 500. So now on Zach's turn, he does have Disciplined Soldier. Going to bring out Disciplined Soldier. He's going to kill Abandoned Arby.
And I'm going to attack him.
You need to
And I have this
find
card,
something
so
that
I
gives
win
you defensive,
ties.
because this guy makes
Wait, let me clarify that real quick.
So Carter, being gracious enough to remind Zach that he doesn't have enough Magicka to play any Magicka. So I did hear correctly, Zach only has a base Magicka as 7 right now. So because he had played Disciplined Soldier, he did not have enough Magicka left over. And again, that's where the timing of cards is important. Even if Zach would have had enough Magicka to play Glory, because he had already entered his attack phase, he could not play that spell. So what he should have done was played, if he had enough Magicka, play Glory on Disciplined Soldier, and then enter his attack phase, therefore using Mountain Yeti to kill one card, and then Disciplined Soldier to kill another card. Carter just took his turn, brought out Apprentice, which is a excellent phase 2 card with 300 stats, and for phase 1 it can seem almost like a broken card. Getting into phase 3, it's tough. It's only a 300, and as games get later, go into later sacred phases, you start seeing the more powerful cards. So Apprentice almost becomes cheap cannon fodder. It can be a good card. It can be a card used to win, but for the most part, it's not going to do much.
Okay. I'm gonna put him down. Hey, these two suicide each other.
So Tulsa Guardsman, Zach was gonna swing in with Tulsa Guardsman, but he was able to back out of it again because they've both agreed that they can do takebacks on what is being said. Tulsa Guardsman is a cost 5, or a cost 6 if I remember correctly. And it's a 300, 500 phase 2 with defensive. It's a pretty good card. It's a card I wish I would have made a little bit better in the game, but nonetheless, it's still a good Esther Crust card. So Zach was able to deal a decent amount of damage to Carter Sacred, which is going to bring him down to 1400. Carter bringing out Prison Guard. Prison Guard is going to use Silence, and so he's going to silence Mountain Yeti.
That's fine. You already said you're going to silence him, so he's silenced. I'm just saying, if you would have silenced him, you wouldn't have to fight him. You could have just attacked him at Sacred.
So, a slight misunderstanding with how silence works. Sometimes what people think is that silence deals with cards' effects or abilities. What silence does, silence prevents an opponent's battle card from attacking on their turn.
Alright, well, I'm just going to kill him then.
So Carter and Zach are actually talking about what silence means. So now Zach just going right to his turn, and so doing things out of order, which isn't going to kill anything because Carter doesn't have any secrets down. He doesn't have any cards in his hand that have effects or abilities. But technically what you're supposed to do is at the start of your turn, you enter your draw phase, and then you go into your prepare phase, and then in your attack phase. So you can't be doing stuff out of order and attacking and then drawing cards, because there are some cards that have, you could say, turn-based effects, turn-based abilities. Some cards will say at the beginning of your draw phase, or during your end phase, or during your prepare phase. And so you have to make sure you're playing in order, remembering what effects say, and being kind enough to remind the person that you're playing against, like, hey, make sure you do this first, and all that stuff. Zach was able to bring out Outpost Tower, and remembering to use that 2-card ability. There's been so many times where people have played an Outpost Tower and they forget to do the ability for why they play it. Which at that point almost makes Outpost Tower not worth it, because you're paying 5 Magicka for a 300, and you're not using that effect that it has. So at that point, you're better off just using Apprentice, because he has no ability either, or no effect, excuse me, and he's cheaper.
So he's alright. So he's 600. He's 500. He's 300. So okay. Alright.
Not yet. We have to wait for you.
Carter unfortunately does not have many cards in his hand. He does thankfully have the Quiet Ones, which is it's a powerful neutral card. It's not too expensive. I mean, it's 8 Magicka, but being a phase 3 card, that makes sense. Phase 3 cards tend to be a little bit more expensive. But it's 700, and Zach has nothing to get over that. So Carter's going to swing in and kill Tulsa Guardsman, but Zach just has another copy of Tulsa Guardsman. But again, if if they had remembered that that plus 900 health effect on the Skylight Fountain would take away the no attack effect that Skylight Fountain has, Zach could have won this game by now. But it's just helping helping Carter stay in the game. Zach getting a little frustrated because he has a lot of cards out on the field, but he just can't do anything to get over the quiet ones. And let's say, even for example, let's say Skylight Fountain did not have that plus 900 health effect that it had got from River of Blessing. Even then, if Skylight Fountain still had its effect, the effect that the card has on itself, Zach would still be in an awkward spot because he just can't do anything. Carter is going to swing in with the quiet ones, kill the other Tulsa Guardsmen, and now it is Zach's turn. Zach does have some cards in his hand. What's killing him, though, is that he has no Magicka. He has 7 Magicka, so he can't play his Esther Towers. He's stuck playing a bunch of cheaper cards. And granted, some of them can be good, but he can't get over the quiet ones.
I'm gonna play.
So Zach actually being pretty smart with how he just played this. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. So Surveillance Eagle, when it comes out, it gives a card defensive. So he's giving Mountain Yeti defensive. And then on top of that, because of the Great Defense Training Ground, Mountain Yeti now has an additional 100 health because Mountain Yeti now has defensive. So that was a pretty smart play from Zach. So Carter's still managing to stay in and build a momentum, continuing to draw cards, and you never know, he might be able to sneak out a win. Carter does say that his favorite 3 cards in his deck, his top 3 cards are for his top 3, the quiet ones, which he does have out in the field, Disciplined Soldier, which we've seen him use quite a bit, and Furbished Temple Judge, which is a card that we have not yet seen any gameplay on. Furbished Architect, not too bad of a sacred or a battle card, but again, it has a Silence 1 ability, but the only stipulation for that card is that it can only be used if you have a Furbished Sacred currently revealed. So kind of just a card just bringing out. Unfortunately, Carter is just generating, the only card draw that he's generating is his typical card draw you would have for your draw phase. And so Carter's just trying to do what he can, playing any card he can.
So I'll have +3 next turn, and I'm going to kill him.
We don't have enough for that. We only have 7 Magicka. Played 5. He costs 3.
This doesn't cost anything. Oh, I have to owe 3 Magicka.
You gotta pay that.
Okay.
Instant is what
When
happens
you
right
brought
now.
it out, hold up, look at what.
So there's a couple other players watching the match going on right now, and they're just helping Zach and Carter through the game, just reminding them of effects and abilities. And that's one thing that's nice about a card game. When you can get a bunch of people together, they can kindly remind people of what's going on. And yes, this is a tournament, but again, wasn't super formal, so it's not one-on-one where you both are held responsible for reminding each other what's going on, and you have judges and everything. Definitely a little bit more casual tournament where people are able to kind of chip in, offer advice, and kind of reminding people how to play. And plus two, Zach and Carter haven't played the game as much as some of the other people that have played the game. So again, just nice to remind this is how this works.
So I get to pull
Spirits, the way that spirits work, you can see that Zach brought out Charlotte, and Charlotte, or just spells in general, they have 3 abilities. All spells have all spirits have an instant ability. Their instant ability is something that happens right away when it comes out on the field attached to your sacred. And then each spirit has 2 impact abilities, and it says impact. Impact is an impact X ability, and X is the amount of magicka that impact ability costs. And when a card has impact abilities, you can only use 1 impact ability 1 time per turn. And so Charlotte, because she comes out, she gives every card that you currently have out on the field defensive, which because of Tanis' dwelling place, therefore means that all those cards that Zach has plus 100 health. And what stinks for Zach is because he only has that 2 token out. Yes, he was able to bring out Disciplined Soldier and bring out Charlotte because spirits don't cost anything, but Charlotte does have a impact 3 ability where it's giving you plus 3 magicka next turn, but Zach just doesn't even have enough magicka to do that, unfortunately.
He's on his last sacred. He's on his
Zach swinging in with Quiet Ones is going to kill Disciplined Soldier. And Zach only has 4 magicka because he spent 3 using Charlotte's ability. Because 2 turns passed, let me clarify on that.
Wait, Joe, can I do that now?
Pizza. How many Magicas?
Oh wait, no, that's 11. Never mind. Wait, is impact plus the?
So Zach bringing out Pack of Wolves, which at this point in the game does not offer much. It just doesn't do much because it's only a 200.
That's also defensive now.
Let me win from the.
But that's also.
Forfeit now.
I still have my pack, and I can't obviously. I can't. But yeah. So now.
So just a misunderstanding of what's going on. So Charlotte specifically says instant. All your battle cards on the field gain defensive. So essentially what the instant acts as is a spell. Now, yes, some spells are permanent or are just a one-time deal. And a slight misunderstanding of how Charlotte's instant ability works, because when she comes out, all the cards gain defensive. It's its instant ability. As soon as it comes out, it happens, and then it's done. So any cards that are played after that do not receive defensive.
Is that it? Yes.
Because and there you go. And actually, you can hear in the background, Joe did clarify to Zach that it is a one-time effect. There are some cards that Estercrest has that says when cards are called to the field, those cards gain defensive as well. So you definitely have to make sure you understand the wording.
That's the end of my turn.
Carter able to bring out Esther Tower, which is just a meaty defensive card that you don't see a lot of Estercrest players play. It can kind of be, it's a tough card. It can be a card that's super good, but because it does have defensive and because it is a phase 2, by the time you get your opponent to phase 2, phase 3, they're bringing out some pretty good cards, and so they're going to be able to wither away at Esther Tower pretty fast, especially like in Carter's sake, having the quiet ones being able to deal 700 damage per turn. That can be pretty solid and bringing down Esther Tower's health. So because all the cards have defensive on the field, Carter is going to swing in with Temple Gardener, and he's going to kill Surveillance Eagle. Zach wanting to play that Glory spell again, but unfortunately it's not his turn, and it's not his prepare phase specifically. Carter is going to deal 700 damage to Zach's Esther Tower, and once he can get that Esther Tower out of the way, then he can start dealing damage again to Zach's Sacred, the Great Defense Training Ground, which I believe is at still 500 health. Actually 200 health now, because you can see in the bottom left of your screen, Zach is using his Sacred Health Tracker, and he's down to 200, and Carter is just still comfortably sitting at about 1400 right now, so he's just fine. Zach bringing out another Mountain Yeti, and unfortunately though, just having that 600, he cannot get over the quiet ones. And again, I remind you, if they remembered that the River Blessing effect said that the card, the Sacred, if you do give it the 900 health, does not have its effect anymore, this game could have been over.
I can't attack you.
So Carter just continuing to draw cards. He doesn't really have that. I mean, he has a Legend in his hand, but it would almost kind of be to his detriment, because then he's bringing out a card that has Bleed, and then Zach would be able to wither away that card. So he's almost better off just leaving these battle cards out.
I'm going to kill your Mountain Yeti.
So Carter declaring a attack on Mountain Yeti from the quiet ones, and what Zach should have remembered is that because Esther Tower has defensive, technically Carter should have attacked Esther Tower first. So he is going to hit Esther Tower for only 100 from Captured Slave. Really, the only purpose that Captured Slave serves as is a troll card if your opponent's hit their third Sacred and they only have 100 health left. Then that can be kind of funny. So Zach having to use his phone, it can be a lot of math sometimes with Esther Tower, just remembering what's all going on. So Esther Tower sitting at 1400 health right now. Zach's Sacred, the Great Defense Training Ground, is sitting at 200 health. Carter, phase 3, Scarlet Fountain, he is sitting at 1400 health right now. So in a pretty good position. He has 10 base Magicka. Zach, unfortunately, having that 7 Magicka is kind of limiting what he can do. 7 Magicka, you can certainly bring out
Hey,
good
Chris,
cards,
I'm gonna
but
take your pack of wolves.
you're kind of limited in what good card are you going to bring out. You can only bring out one at a time. And you can see that Zach's hand is pretty full of some good cards. He has Beast Rider, Abandoned Army. We'll see what happens. Okay, so Zach did declare attack, he'll captured slave, and pass turn. Carter bringing out Council Board Member, which Council Board Member is the best card when played in Phase 3 because it allows you to free play a card. And Carter thankfully did reveal Furbish Temple Judge, which is an amazing Furbish Phase 2 card. It is expensive. It costs 9 Magicka, so it's definitely super expensive. And it says Silence 3, and then also while it's on the field, minus 100 to all the opponent's battle cards and legends. So now Esther Tower is down to 13, and now Carter has all this firepower between the Furbish Temple Judge and the Quiet Ones, and so which is great for Carter. You know, it's going to allow him to come back and hopefully do some good stuff.
So I'm going to
Kill your. You can only use one card to attack my Esther Tower.
yeah.
It's at 1400, right?
Is that 14? Attack that with my Temple Judge for 600.
And it's defensive.
Huh?
It's defensive.
You gotta kill his Esther Tower.
You have to kill my Esther Tower
Yeah, no,
before you can
that's what I
attack
just
me.
said.
Okay.
I'm going to do 600 to it.
Like,
Okay.
I wish like a house,
And
actual house.
Okay, so a slight misunderstanding of some rules again right here. So sometimes the understanding, what can happen sometimes is that, so people confuse the idea that you can't attack with multiple cards together. And so therefore that means you can't attack the same card multiple times. What that means, technically how it works, is combat works this way. It's one card versus one card, unless an effect says otherwise.
Oh, I can do that?
So
I thought it was
what
one
Zach
card.
told Carter was that you can't attack the same card twice. You can do that. It's just the way combat works is it's one card versus another card. As the attacking player, once you attack with a card, that card cannot attack anymore. But if you attack an opponent's card, that doesn't mean you can't attack that opponent's card anymore, especially if a card has bleed. And so Carter should have technically been able to destroy Zach's other Esther Tower last turn. And because of that misunderstanding of the rules, and because Zach did forget about the whole defensive thing, Carter was able to get rid of Pack of Wolves, which he technically shouldn't have been able to do.
you're sacred. Till dead.
How much?
Dead.
So Carter did dealing damage to Zach's Sacred, and that's going to bring Zach to Phase 3, which Zach is going to end up revealing, I believe, Skylight Fountain.
Yes, I am.
I wasn't at 700. I was at 800.
Well, it's too late.
14
Yeah, it
minus
is.
600 is 800.
You're already done.
Oh, my apologies. I spoke too soon. So it looks like Council Board Member only swung in with 100.
He didn't have enough to kill it.
How much is your sacred at?
No. My Esther Tower.
I know.
My Sacred's at 200.
That's happened before.
So-
we did that and then ran out of cards. That's how we did it.
Gosh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Between me and you, we had to defend.
Oh, it is a bleed. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, there we go. So they're kind of locking in on the rules, getting the understanding for how everything works, and so now Zach is officially entering Phase 3. And it does sound like Zach is moderately pleased with that Sacred being the card that he is playing with, and hopefully it works to his advantage. We'll see.
No, not us.
In Zach's words, he's saying he's about to go ham. So hopefully Zach can just bounce back. That can kind of be demoralizing if you play against someone that has come all the way from being down and then all the way into Phase 3, and they're able to come back and win. The only problem is this. Carter has 10 Magicka to use. He has 2 excellent cards out, one of them being Furbish Temple Judge, which is an excellent Furbish card. On top of that, Zach only has 7 Magicka to use. And so you see that he does have, for example, he does have his Legend Esbrook out, which would be a great card to have, especially because it could quickly get rid of Furbish Temple Judge, which is going to hurt all of his other cards that he brings out. and +2 Ferber's Temple Judge has 700 health, so it's going to be hard for him to get a card over Temple Judge. But he does have Abandoned Army, which with that +200, 200 would tie Temple Judge and Abandoned Army at the same attack and health. But at this point in the game, he almost has to do that if he wants to try to preserve a win.
I'd flip the table. The moment I seen that and it wasn't Esther Crust, I would flip the table and walk out.
I'm gonna cry. This game makes me so mad sometimes. Yeah. No, I just can't do anything.
So that's
I
game.
got that card to play.
Okay, but I do that and he knocks me down to
That's game.
800.
Okay, so Zach is going to play Abandoned Army, just trying to see what he can do.
Still play it.
It just depends on what Carter has in his
I'm
hand.
at 700.
Dude,
You're
can-
at, oh yeah, that's right. So you could
Kill one.
Kill the judge.
Kill his best one. He has to attack you next time.
Is that
With one of
defensive?
his good card. Well, you're basically defensive.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So they're just clarifying on the rules right now. Right now, what happens, and you know, at this point, it's like you want to make sure you're playing everything right. Okay, so Zach did play Abandoned Army because of that +200, 200 bonus.
All right, I'll do
And you
that.
might be able to salvage another.
He is going to kill Temple Judge, so they do trade. So now Carter's going to enter his turn, and he has enough attack damage. You know, he could just do a quick card draw. He's just gonna play. Look, oh, he's got plenty of cards to play, and that looks like, and that's the dealing blow. That is game. Carter comes back to win all the way from being done, and that is the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. Thanks for watching this video.
I want to thank you guys and girls for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did during the night of the recording, which for the tournament, I had to walk around the whole entire time. So this was my first time actually being able to watch the game and actually do commentary for it. And I hope you guys were able to learn some of the rules for the game, for what you can and cannot do. Stay tuned for next week where you will be getting even more gameplay content and videos, just showing you the strengths of all the kingdoms and hopefully giving you ideas for ways to build your own deck. With that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, evening, or night whenever you're watching this video. Thanks for watching.